どうぞ。
ただいま。
え？ああ、うん。おかえり。
Days with My Stepsister, episode number 2. And as I was watching the show, I was trying to, as I'm watching it, kind of unfold. I'm like, what is this feeling that I have in this show? Like, is it just interest? Is it curiosity? And I kind of like, I think I landed on the word or the feeling that I have. And I think the word is unease. As I'm watching this show, I just feel uneasy. And I don't know if that's intentional by the studio, by the writer, or whatever, but that's just the feeling that, like, I get that uneasy tension. And it's definitely a feeling. It's not one that I know if I like or not, though. So as we're watching episode 2, there's a few different things. So one, I think it's toxic's not the word. As the two, step siblings now, as they get closer, right? As 𝐜𝐴 and Saki get closer, and it's a lot of it's by proximity, but as they get closer, it's dangerous to not really establish clear guidelines. Now they both understand that hey, they're second years in high school at this point. They have this year and then one more year left, and then they're pretty much like on their own, right? They're 16, 17 years old, whatever it is. So they pretty much, they have a very limited time together. But I think that because 𝐜𝐴, is that his name again? I know, I just said it and I remember. Yeah, 𝐜𝐴. As 𝐜𝐴's dad is at work and, her and Saki's mom works nights, they're going to be alone a lot. And what ends up happening a lot is when you don't have anybody else, I guess you could say, is by nature you begin to get close, which I think is perfectly fine, because they are step siblings now. They're, put a quotations around it, but like, family. I think it's perfectly good for them to get close. But the dangerous portion is how close and how dependent on each other that they get. Because that could be like a very dangerous line to walk, because it just takes the slightest nudge to go into that romantic, and it could just be that they fall into that, because there could be an event that ends up happening later on in this show that one of them go through, and they confide in each other, as humans tend to do. Is when something like that happens, a lot of times unfortunately it does turn sexual, because you just kind of need that closeness that you can only get from that kind of interaction. So taking it a lot of steps back, though, I think that's what I'm feeling, is that some watches kind of like unease, and obviously, you can kind of see the writing on the wall. I mean, the genre that this show fits into here, is I think it's slice of life. Let me just double check that the genre that it fits into, comedy, psychological, romance. So I mean, we're gonna get to that point, and I guess I don't know how I feel about that, even though I'm watching the show with knowing that it's probably gonna end up happening. But that's the feelings that that I get. The other piece of it, positive wise, that I have from this show is I genuinely do think it's very, how do you say? It's written in realism. I don't know if the author went through something similar, growth, but if that's true, it's written in realism, and I think it's written in realism from two angles. First off, they showed 𝐜𝐴's mom. I don't know if she died, she dipped out, she went and got milk and cigarettes, or whatever. But obviously, you have these two kids who are kind of broken in their own way. And I want to really just kind of focus on Saki for a second, because one of the things that she said really, really bothered me in the episode. And I'm gonna go and find the specific line that she said, but it really bugged me. she said Utah was talking to her about relying on him and his dad. And she said it would be easier if you two were bad people. Now, I don't know if she's trying to, herself, or what exactly is going on with her, or what she has really been through. But she's obviously a depressed kid. And you never want to diminish somebody. But a lot of times, when you're a younger adult, when you're a teenager, a lot of the problems that you face can feel like mountains, but sometimes they are molehills, but they're still very real to that individual. And even though that maybe me or you would perceive it as a molehill, to that kid, that it's a mountain. And obviously there's some kind of mountain that she's facing. Maybe it was... I don't want to speculate. It could be that, when her original biological dad was in the picture, maybe he was abusive. It could be that she has just experienced a lot of hardship based on her mom maybe being a single mom. She talked about how her mom got ridiculed a lot. It could be events that have happened when she was younger in school as she tried to put herself out there in the world. She could just be one of those kids who, why is my family so broken? Just kind of be depressed from a very young age. There's a lot of different avenues that she could be written as that, again, semblance, and set up in realism. But it's really kind of hard to say. But, she's obviously definitely going through something to where her lack of care is really low. But yeah, she wants to establish herself and be independent and stuff like that. So there's a lot there that needs to get unpacked by the only person in her vicinity at this point, which is Utah. But then in his case, he also has something there too, but he's probably working through it a little bit better, maybe. But he also needs that person who he also doesn't have, right? Mom's gone, dad's essentially gone. At least he has a friend at work that he can kind of confide in. So yeah, it's one of those things to where it's like, I'm just very interested to see on, what kind of gets unpacked. Like, what's her trauma exactly? What is the big thing occurring for her that it would have been easier if Utah and his dad were bad people. So just like overall a lot to just kind of like unpack with the character. And again, that the set of unease is there too. And last thing I'll say is, I guess I have a few other thoughts, but last thing I'll say too is, Utah obviously did save her this episode from, again, getting hit by the isekai truck. It was coming in fast. Just because she simply wasn't paying attention. It wasn't her fault. The truck was going to run a red light kind of thing. But he did save her. And that'll probably get their bond, to be even closer. Whatever it was before, it'll probably end up being closer because of that event. And mainly because it's one of those things to where when you have somebody who maybe doesn't care about themselves, but you have somebody else who cares about them, they kind of begin to feel, or not feel, but fill that void in you. Again, and that's where that dangerous line comes into play, where it just takes that little nudge or event that could happen to shift them into a romantic thing. She could get approached at school, or there could be something that happens and Utah comes to her, to puts on the cape and saves her. And that could be the event that kind of triggers that change. So, very interesting anime. It's a very thought-provoking anime. I'm always kind of feel like that little bit, again, unease and a little bit on edge. And yeah, it's just an interesting show. And I'm interested to hear your guys' thoughts on it. So let me know in the comments below. All right, I'll see you guys for the next episode on episode 3. Peace out, my friends.